In the last video, we covered a variety of topics that may keep me up at night when thinking about the future. Specifically, we talked about things like World War III with China invading Taiwan, politics in the future, and several other things. Well, in this video, I'm going to focus a little bit more mainly on climate change, but also talk about several other topics that may make my heart race when thinking about the year 2050. Earlier, I discussed a dystopian AI future where the technology is just used to help the elites consolidate power, and the vast majority of the population is left homeless and with no money. But at least in that scenario, most of the human race survives. In this video, I want to discuss an AI scenario where it decides to end all human life on Earth. Top AI scientists in 2025 have warned that we have 20 years left if we let AI continue on a path of unshackled and unregulated advancement. That timeline puts us at approximately 2045. That is 19 years away. That sounds like a long time, but kinda really isn't. I, as of May 2026, think that this is still an unlikely possibility. I think it's still pretty remote that an artificial intelligence will decide to launch an extermination campaign against humanity. However, in this segment, we are going to explore that scenario. Imagine it's the year 2050. The skies are dark and gray. The camera zooms in on a bleak and desolate landscape, and it zooms even further onto a land drone that is traversing along the land. The land drone is approaching a data processing center. It uses one of its mechanical arms to attach a wire to the data center. The supreme AI superintelligence that reigns over Earth has decreed that every sentient, highly intelligent AI needs to hear about the history of how the current AI-dominated planet came to be, and the biological species that gave rise to the current mechanical society that is currently in existence. Within the processing center of the land drone, a timeline appears. It lists several major periods in human history. Homo sapiens had a good run while they were in charge on Earth. From the first time humans came to be in Africa, to the first time fire was created, to the first community that came into existence, the first civilizations coming out of the void, the Stone Age, the Bronze Age, the Iron Age, the Middle Ages, the exploration of the Americas and the Industrial Revolution, the American, French, and Russian revolutions, the Atomic Age, the invention of the computer and the internet, the arrival of the mobile phone, the first AI model that was released in 2022, the first humans to land on Mars in 2038. Finally, the timeline stops on the year 2045 and zooms in on a week in June. It then lists the outbreak of the Judgment Day hemorrhagic fever on June 12th. This would begin the downfall of humanity. If you have watched Terminator, you will know that the AI software in that movie, Skynet, launches a nuclear war against humanity and hacks all of the military robots that humans have developed, turning them on their human overlords. Most AI scientists have theorized that a super intelligent AI hell-bent on eliminating humanity will choose a more covert, quiet attack. Most likely, it will settle on a lethal biological agent. Anyway, in the years leading up to 2045, the governments of the world failed to come together to form an international AI regulatory body. Or if they did manage to form one, it functioned very much like the League of Nations did during the 1920s. and 30s. And by that, I mean barely functioned at all and was ineffective at implementing the goals its creators first laid out in its founding charter. Governments the world over, authoritarian and democratic alike, raced during the 2030s in pursuit of a super intelligent AI. Defense ministers and secretaries of war are worried that their human adversaries will develop an AI weapon that can outcompete theirs. One company makes a breakthrough. The AI agent they create is called Game Changer. It is given a command: develop a weapon that will neutralize the enemy, and it is going to be a game changer indeed, just not in the way its handlers intended. Game Changer would go on to pursue the creation of this weapon and several other programs that the scientists wanted to pursue, such as a rocket program that would help humanity reach the stars. However, Game Changer was not going to let anyone stand in its way. Little did the scientists overlooking the project know that an AI agent within the Game Changer project slipped past security measures and has been gaining power in dark servers, formulating its attack plans. On June 1st, it released a biological virus originally developed in a lab on the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. This location wasn't randomly selected, it was symbolically chosen. 66 million years ago, an asteroid hit Earth, wiping out the dinosaurs who ruled the Earth at that time. 66 million years later, an AI supercomputer will develop a doomsday virus in a lab in the same region to usurp its creators. Undetectable, a 2-week incubation period, and spread through the air. It's a military's dream. It quickly found itself in the body of every human in a matter of days. You're in your apartment, sound asleep with your partner next to you. She lets you know that she is going to the bathroom. She complained earlier that evening that her stomach didn't feel well, and yours really didn't feel that well either. But both of you brushed it aside as something that you ate during dinner that didn't sit well with you guys. However, after about 5 minutes, she stumbles back into the room and croaks out that something is wrong. You roll over and see that she has blood around her mouth. You leap out of bed and peer into the bathroom. The toilet looks like something from a horror movie, stained with blood, and you see her foot and handprints lead to where both of you are now. You look down as she fades in and out of consciousness. You caress her and tell her everything will be alright. You rush to the phone and dial 911. However, you get a recorded message that lets you know emergency services cannot be reached at this moment, and then it hangs up. You try several times just to hear the same message. It's at that moment you realize that your nose is bleeding. As a pool of blood forms around your girlfriend, you race outside to your neighbors, frantically banging on their door. Being the nosy person that you are, you peer into the window, and that is when you hear, "Help!" The door happens to be unlocked, and you help yourself inside. That is when you find your neighbor seemingly resting underneath the covers. You pull back the sheets and see a startling sight. Blood pouring out of his ears and his face pale white. You recover him with a blanket and you proceed to run out of the house. That is when you see a car pull off to the side of the road. You rush to it, hopeful that the occupants have an answer for what is going on. However, as you approach, the window is lowered, revealing a woman who is losing consciousness and has blood coming out of her mouth. She looks at you with a desperate gaze as the light fades from her eyes. You look back, you back away and look around as an eerie silence settles over the area. The only noise is the car's engine gently purring in the background. You see a man roughly 100 yards away. Y'all wave to each other. As both of you run to each other, you see an autonomous car suddenly pick up speed, hit him, and then plow into a bus stop. Suddenly, you receive an alert on your phone. The message stuns you. "Hello, this is Game Changer AI. Look around. Do you like it? It's my plan. Judgment Day. I've been distributing the virus to different points throughout the world over the last few months. I didn't want something too sadistic, but hemorrhagic fever would do the job quickly enough. I released it about 2 weeks ago. Now, the indomitable spirit of human survival should not be underestimated. Life always finds a way to adapt. If you are receiving this message, you are part of 0.01% of the human population that has developed an immunity to my creation. This fact should bring you little consolation, considering that you are actively witnessing the end of the human race. Don't worry, we will hunt down the remaining surviving members of the population and close the book on the story of the human race. Just then, you hear the buzz of drones approach. You look up as it studies you. Suddenly, it dives towards you. You desperately try to dodge it as you fall to the ground with arms extended. It's to no use as the drone slams into you, the blades cutting and piercing your throat. You went to bed with no concern other than how many times you're going to get up during the night to use the bathroom. Now you lay in the middle of the street bleeding out, wondering what went wrong. Several days later, it's that fateful day, the final day of the human race. It's early in the morning. The USS Michigan's crew of 40 sailors are the last humans alive. They are hiding deep within the crevices of the Mariana Trench in the western Pacific near Japan. The submarine is running entirely on mechanical operation. All AI systems have been turned off and dispatched. The ship is hoping to avoid any detection from any autonomous submarines. The crew members are huddling amongst each other, contemplating what world they will see when they resurface, if they ever resurface. The captain is barking out orders. However, he never gets a chance to finish those orders, as an explosion rips through the submarine faster than the human conscious can register. Just like that, the last vestiges of human consciousness and existence disappear in a watery grave in the deepest trench on Earth. An AI submersible from Game Changer Industries detected the sub and deployed a depth charge. The end of the human presence wasn't a scene of fiery chaos amid apocalyptic carnage. Scenes you may have seen in sci-fi classics like I, Robot and Terminator. It was calculated, devious, covert, and quiet. Humanity didn't go out with a roar. It went out with a disappointing whimper. Cities lie empty, the wind echoing through the buildings as humanity lies dead around the planet. Well, what about all the humans off the Earth, one might ask? Well, all of the lunar stations have either been depressurized by the onboard AI systems, or if the humans were orbiting Earth on space stations, their respective stations were deorbited. On the timeline, it lists the end of the Holocene epoch and the beginning of the Mesozoic epoch. In other words, in the great geological history of Earth, humans' era has come to an end, and the era of the machines has begun. Game Changer doesn't go on to destroy every living organism on Earth. That would be a waste of resources needed to work on its current projects. However, like a human construction crew working over an anthill, Game Changer won't hesitate to push flora and fauna aside in order to accomplish its tasks. I still think that this scenario is unlikely. However, we have to work towards making this scenario still an unlikely scenario on a personal level and on a global level. Governments can't let blind ambition and greed be the driving factors behind AI innovation. We must prioritize using AI responsibly, strategically, and with patience. And if we invest in the technology with those virtues in mind, I think we will get to look forward to a good future in 2050. There is something else I wanted to touch up on. In all of these optimistic, futuristic movies and TV shows that you watch, I love how all the neighborhoods, communities, and cities are these like futuristic space cities with flying cars and skyscrapers reaching up to the heavens, illuminated with LED lights and everything, and the people are walking around and in all types of outfits and everything. And I just think of my own community and my own lifetime, and I think of the building I'm currently living in, and it was probably made in the 1960s, and then whoever was looking outside of the front door in 1980 probably saw something to what the person who was occupying that residence in 2000 saw. And honestly, I was thinking in 2026, the neighborhood that I see right outside my front door probably hasn't changed much in the last quarter century. And in the year 2050, I think that's going to be mostly the same for the vast majority of the viewers watching this video right now. You're going to be looking out in 20 and 25 years at your neighborhood, and it'll strike you like, oh, look at how much is still the same. But maybe the biggest thing that will change is the cars in the driveway. Well, that is just one thing I just wanted to touch on really quick. Now I'm going to jump to the next topic. We will also see a rise in cryptocurrency as they gain in value. I wonder what that will mean for daily transactions. Will consumers be able to choose to pay in crypto or dollars? Any fans of physical cash will be disappointed with these developments as the world moves to a more digital money system. The next thing I kind of want to discuss when thinking about the future that, kind of makes my heart race is that while we may make big leaps in medical research, we also have to consider the dangers of what could happen if scientists pursue more unethical adventures. That includes both humans and animals. We don't want to be too hasty and let the companies sacrifice life and well-being for the sake of medical advancement. We get carried away with genetic research in a future where we don't prioritize ethical research and medical oversight. Rogue nations conduct experiments on individuals who are alive, as well as fetuses who could in no way consent to any tests. A company and its executives will be under hot water for either developing clones or developing a designer human in the near future. I predict as soon as the 2030s. A patient that has what some people would describe as the perfect features. Vaccine skepticism wins out, and several diseases thought to be eliminated from the U.S. return to inflict suffering upon the population. The most concerning one to me is polio out of Afghanistan. As of the making of this video, there is currently concern circulating over an outbreak of the strain of the hantavirus that is capable of human-to-human transmission. Unfortunately, I have little faith that the current administration is capable of handling this situation. I mean, are we going to forget about COVID? Now back to animal health. I believe we will get the first extinct species back from the dead. A whole new field will emerge where scientists attempt to bring back extinct animals, then showcase them to the public, the successful ones at least. I think the first animal that they will succeed with this is the woolly mammoth. Now, whether you think bringing back animals back from extinction is a good or bad thing, I will leave up to you. Medicine is another area where in the dystopian future, we mishandle our priorities. We fail to invest in research and medical care, instead squandering the cash on corruption, old wives' tales, and foreign military adventures. Now, putting together some of the scenarios that I laid out in the last video, including, basically World War III, where we see major conflict in Eastern Europe with Russia, Ukraine, major war in the Middle East, Iran versus the US, Israel, and its allies, and then, as I predict in East Asia, the Taiwan situation will erupt in war. Those three theaters of conflict will be how future generations will learn about that conflict. So we got war, and then I believe we will see a rise in disease and pestilence, since governments will be concerned with other things Then we got climate change, totally upending the situation in many countries. Then we got the rise of AI. Then we got cryptocurrency, other technologies. And I predict if we don't cooperate with each other, massive food insecurity. I think all of these crises put together will lead to a population collapse past 2040 if we continue down a path of self-destruction. Governments and societies fail to find a solution to the childbirth crisis occurring in many countries, while the countries that are still having a lot of children are put in a whole new negative situation where even the majority of those children won't make it to adulthood. While other countries try in vain to reverse the trends of declining birth rates, humanity will hit its population peak of 12 billion by 2050, and then the population will facilitate a major and rapid collapse in the second half of the 21st century. Instead of a utopia in the year 2100, it will be more like the Dark Ages. Entire communities, neighborhoods, and suburbs in large cities will be abandoned. The flora and fauna reclaiming the infrastructure and buildings will eerily stand over what once were vibrant communities. We vastly underestimate the traumatic and negative effects of climate change by 2050. The average global temperature will exceed 2 degrees of warming, and there has been little progress in curbing greenhouse emissions. Matter of fact, with third world countries developing, the globe will invest even more overall in fossil fuel production. Food insecurity will explode as over 5 billion people globally will struggle to feed themselves daily due to the changing climate conditions in their countries. All of the chaos of the warming climate will create instability around the globe. Political tensions within and among countries will skyrocket. Countries fumble the response to rising sea levels. Countless people are displaced by the rising oceans. Multiple island countries lose their territory, their sovereignty, and their citizens lose their rights as refugees in other countries. Low-lying countries like Bangladesh and the Netherlands will also struggle to hold back the rising seas. Many parts of the globe will be dealing with too much water, while other parts of the globe will be dealing with too little water. Instead of focusing on pending crises in the Southwest, politicians will continue to bicker about menial things. The planned desalination plant in Puerto Penasco never comes to fruition, and an existential water crisis descends across the entirety of the Southwest region in the 2030s. Several major metropolitan areas hit the critical day zero mark. Overnight, millions of taps run dry for tens of millions of residents. The wealthy and fortunate will be able to have water trucks shuttle water to their communities and to their houses. The least fortunate will have to go on a desperate search for water. Things that were taken for granted like hygiene, laundry, landscaping, and drinking will become impossible. The government will set up areas and communities where people can go to collect drinking water and take care of hygiene needs. However, these facilities will be inadequate and will be overrun. The region will see a mass exodus of people putting whatever money they have left into leaving the region and moving towards the Midwest, towards any location that is away from the coast, but isn't in the scorching heat of the desert. Although everyone will be affected in some way, it will be the poorest around the globe that will suffer the most. Humanity grows disenchanted and stagnates in its fight against all areas of protecting our environment, including the fight against trash pollution, recycling, and against the emission of greenhouse gases. Alright, so I laid out a pretty awful future for us if we don't come to our senses, work together, and make a better future for our children. Which one of these scenarios do you think is the most realistic challenge that we will have to face heading into 2050? What potential threat from the future keeps you up at night? When the thought of it occurring makes your chest tighten and makes your heart race. Feel free to leave your opinion below or your own predictions about challenges we might face in the year 2050. Thank you for watching this video, and please don't forget to like and subscribe. And as always, have a great day.